Okay, so back in the summer of 2020, I spent about 2 or 3 days doing nothing but laying in bed binging all of Evangelion for the first time, and eventually I made it to episode 23, which is the part where Rei has those veins go through her body while trying to protect Shinola while he's being useless and terrible, and then eventually everything goes haywire and a big explosion kills her or whatever, and I was on the other side of the screen sobbing and sniffling like a diseased hog. You know, the one. What was interesting about this was that when I first watched the show, I felt that Rei had barely a personality. I didn't feel much of a connection with her character at first at all, which makes sense because throughout the show it seemed like she was unlocking more convincing pseudo-human elements through her software updates. I much preferred Misato and Asuka personally, as while they were an alcoholic and an asshole respectively, or disrespectively, they at least had some sort of legitimate personality I could latch onto. These glaring flaws in their character made them feel more human, and as a flawed human myself, I could see a little bit of myself in them. Rei, on the other hand, was literally just one of various replaceable clones that didn't even really begin to develop a character arc that made me interested in her. The only real thing that I could connect with was when I saw that her apartment was a fucking mess for obvious reasons. She didn't really become that interesting universe resetting god thing that she becomes in the movie until the version we see throughout most of the show is already complete. Despite all of that, I watched Asuka and Misato die, and although I was kind of bummed, it kind of fucked up my mojo a little. Things were not peace and love as they usually are in this moment. I guess I forgot to pay the water bill for those episodes or some shit. But for some reason, the scene with Rei getting infected by some spaghetti noodles recreated that time my brother accidentally left the hose on overnight, except inside of my eyeballs and without the spike in the water bill. My first theory was simply that Rei's death had the most emotion behind it, that maybe the other scenes were just lacking somehow, but then I remembered that, no, that's not it. After that, I figured that maybe somewhere deep in my subconscious, Rei was just my favorite one the entire time. Sure, she had the personality of one of the backing members of Maroon 5 post-mortem, but that scene where she slapped Shinjar on the escalator was pretty funny, so maybe that knocked her up a few pegs on the totem pole. This also fell apart when I remembered that the wine mom owns the most perfect pet in all of cinema, and the redhead with anger issues awakened something inside of me that left me looking at a stranger in the mirror for months, unable to recognize the pained eyes staring back, clearly longing for something that was impossible to ever achieve, so... yeah, that wasn't it either. That's when I remembered something cute. I remembered seeing this meme on my Twitter feed a few months back that showed what albums a bunch of EVA characters would like, and this meme showed that Rei was a fan of They Might Be Giants, which is pretty funny because I am also a fan of They Might Be Giants. That's so cool! We're like best friends now! Surely this connection I felt was due to a special bond all They Might Be Giants fans share with each other, an emotional link fostered at birth that lasts through the entire lifetime that alerts the entire Giants fandom when one of their people is experiencing hardship or despair. Unfortunately, I had to debunk this idea myself when I realized that unlike most They Might Be Giants fans, Rei is pretty quiet and knows how to shut the fuck up, so after exhausting every other possible option, I was forced to confront the harsh reality that the truth is simply that between the day I watched the Rei death scene and the day I watched End of Evangelion, a vital shift in my brain chemistry occurred, one that turned me into a cold-hearted sociopath incapable of feeling an ounce of empathy for my fellow man, one that ripped the ability to grieve for those I love from the slab of electric raw beef sat tight in my skull like a baby taking a handful out of their cake at their first birthday party. This blue-haired bitch, this fucking shitlord, stole my goddamn anterior insular cortex. She gave me a fucking craniotomy. Come on, bro, like... I need that to feel. My final point before I go is that I lied at the beginning and I actually cried way harder during the third impact when it's implied that Pen Pen dies, because I've already said before, Pen Pen is the best character in all of fiction.
No one understands me.
You never understood anything.
I thought this was supposed to be a world without pain, without uncertainty.
That's because you thought that everyone else felt the same as you do.
You betrayed me! You betrayed my feelings!
You misunderstood from the very beginning. You just believed what you wanted to believe.
Nobody wants me, so they can all just die.